Hi, I'm Matthew Emledge, and I am the current world record holder for the largest collection of Cardcaptor Sakura merchandise. Today, I'm here to take you on a tour of my collection, and talk a little bit about what it took to set that record. As of recording this video, my official record states that my collection is 4,873 pieces. However, that is no longer the actual amount, since the collection is constantly growing. The last time I counted before making this video, it's over 5,200 pieces, and it's still growing. My collection contains a bit of everything. Of course, there's the basics, like figures, posters, plush toys, big toys, keychains, buttons, then of course you've got the regional exclusives, like the entire section devoted to Nelvana's dub Cardcaptors. Naturally, in any anime collection, there will be copies of the manga, which I have in several languages. And of course, there's going to be video copies. My collection includes multiple editions, in all of the major formats, like VHS, DVD, and less popular formats, like the Laserdisc. Last but not least, perhaps fitting for a series called Cardcaptor Sakura, there are many, many, many cards. In fact, out of over 5,200 pieces, just over 3,000 of them are unique cards. This is the original Nakayoshi where Cardcaptor Sakura ran. It ran non-stop from May 1996 to July 2000. Nakayoshi is a series like Shonen Jump, except it caters to a female audience in the 8 to 16 demographic. The sequel series, Clear Cards, is still running in Nakayoshi, and I've been collecting those as well. Though as you can see, I'm beginning to run out of room. Now you might be asking yourself, how do I keep track of all this stuff? How do you remember what you already have? And how do you report it for a world record? The answer to all of those is pretty simple. I use spreadsheets. Spreadsheets and a comprehensive photo inventory of every individual piece. When submitting for a world record of this type, organization is key. Anything that helps you keep everything neat and organized is ideal, especially when it comes to counting it later on. For instance, I like to use these little artist portfolios to keep all of my flat things together. The journey to achieving this record was a long one, and it took 2 attempts to get it right. If you attended KawaiiKon in person in 2019, you might have seen this display in the main lobby.
This world record is this number, and I am applying today for the world record for most Cardcaptor Sakura memorabilia. I have it all displayed here.
This was my first attempt to claim the record, which I'm sorry to say didn't get accepted. While this event went surprisingly smoothly, and the event organizers were really helpful, I didn't do a good enough job of cataloging everything, so I had to do it all over. And then more problems came up because I had to move from Hawaii to Maryland during this time, and then the global pandemic hit, so there was quite a bit of a gap between attempts. In January 2021, I took my second shot. This time, I did it right. Over the course of 2 days, myself and a couple of new volunteers counted everything with a written checklist. That's really all that was needed to get it right this time. I also paid to have my evidence processed faster. Normally, evidence review for a Guinness World Record can take anywhere between 12 and 15 weeks. The expedited service is pricey, but I wanted to be on the books in time for the 25th anniversary in May. I should also note that even though the service says your evidence will be reviewed within 5 days, it can still take up to a month for them to finish going through everything you submitted and award you the record. But eventually, I got through it, and they sent me this lovely certificate. So how does the process work, if you want to set your own record? First, you go to Guinness World website and submit a request to set a record. If a record already exists, you'll be applying to break a record, which is what I did. It can take up to 12 weeks for Guinness to approve your request to set a record, whether it's a new one or an old one. This is not something that you can do on a whim. If you want it done quickly, you can pay a fee, but it's a very expensive option. If you have the time to spare, I don't recommend it. After Guinness approves your request, they'll send you guidelines on how to submit, including any and all guidelines that you have to follow for your specific record. For collections, there are generic rules, such as items sold as a pair, like socks or earrings, are counted as a single item. Only a single instance of each item counts, and no bootlegged or unofficial merchandise. As for my submission, Cardcaptor Sakura, there was one specific rule, which was that cloud books and accessories count as a single item. To verify your record, you have to submit evidence, which in my case was pictures and video, like the footage you've been seeing throughout this video. You also need at least 2 witnesses, and one of them needs to be an expert, which I admit I found to be a little difficult, because after all, who's more of an expert than me? Fortunately, expert really just means anyone familiar with the series, and able to recognize that the product belongs to that franchise and that it's not something else. After that, witnesses are really just there to verify that the items actually exist, as well as verify that the count is correct. Once everything is done, you load it all into their website. Then it's just a waiting game. If you're accepted, then congratulations. If there's something else they need, they'll reach out to you. But it's best to get it all right the first time, because communication is slow, with up to 5 days being normal for a response. This whole process from start to finish can take half a year, so keep that in mind if you want to apply for your own record. Still, with all that said, I think it was worth the effort. Why did you do this? To be honest, I was inspired when I went to the Sakura exhibition in 2018. I saw that Sofia Pichipa got a section in the exhibit, since she was the record holder at the time. I wanted to be part of cardcaptor history too. Unfortunately, no one from Kodansha has reached out to me. Yet. What is the oldest piece in your collection? The oldest thing is this cloud book from the original Cardcaptors line released by Trendmasters. However, I also count this plushie that I bought at KawaiiKon in 2006, as it was my first international piece. So as far as I'm concerned, they're both item number 1. What's the most expensive piece? The most expensive single item is this poster signed by Sakura Tange, who is the voice of Sakura Kinomoto. It's one of only 200 that were given out at an event in Japan in 2018. What's your favorite item? It's hard to pick a single piece, but I love my rubber charm collection. I love it so much that it sits over my bed. How much have you spent on the collection? People always want to know, and I'm keeping that a secret. What is the hardest item you've had to track down? My method of searching for items usually just involves checking my various saved searches a few times a day. But there are items that I have spent a long time waiting for, like this UA, which arrived while I was in the middle of making this video. The poster that I showed before, though, actually barely made it out of Japan before the global lockdown began, so that could be counted as one of the most difficult things to get. Is there anything special that you're looking for right now? My time collecting has always been a little chaotic, and I don't know I want something until I find it. But sometimes, I have what I call a unicorn, which is a specific item that I know exists, but I haven't found one on the market yet. I've caught a few of them over the years, like this Bandai Playphone, and these computer games. Currently, my unicorn is the December 1996 issue of Nakayoshi. It's not exceptionally special. It doesn't contain any special chapters or major anniversaries that I'm aware of. It just happens to be the very last one for me to obtain. Do you have suggestions for places to shop or services to use? I found that the best variety of anime goods in general is on Yahoo Auction, which you can find on yahoo.co.jp. You'll need at least a rudimentary understanding of kana to navigate, though you can use a browser app to help translate. You'll also need to use a proxy service, of which I recommend Baiyi, who has an English filter for their site and are very user-friendly. You can find the item you want to buy, and then there's a very large button at the top that will help you do all the heavy lifting. The downside to international imports and using proxy services, though, is that the fees start to add up if you're buying multiple items. You generally have to pay a buying fee on each individual purchase. But hey, it's cheaper than a flight to Tokyo, right? Have you ever lost anything or had a major disaster? Back in 2018, when I decided to start working for the record, I had to get all the items I owned into a single place, which was a problem because about 25% of my items were back in storage at my parents' home in Connecticut. Over Christmas, I traveled home and shipped all my items, first class through USPS, all the way to Hawaii. But unfortunately, one of the boxes was seriously damaged and the contents of it were partially lost forever. They are scattered somewhere in a postal service in Massachusetts, but I will never know the full story. In hindsight, I'm actually surprised that more didn't go wrong, but I counted my blessings and I did manage to recover the lost items. What are some of the weirdest items you've found? The scope of what Sakura has been placed on continues to surprise me. For instance, I've found Sakura branded adhesive bandages, and Sakura branded pudding. If I'm reading the date on this right, it expired in 2006, so I'm not opening this. I've also found interesting clothing items, like this tiny pair of shoes. And then there's interesting pieces that aren't exactly merchandise, but they still count, like this Cardcaptor's press kit, which would have been used to sell the show to retailers to get them to carry the product. And you can't discount the novelty value of colored VHS tapes that you can find in Australia. Is there a specific character that you like to collect? Sakura merchandise tends to lean heavily into featuring Sakura herself, so there isn't a huge variety of items that feature other characters. But after her, I love Soupy, so if he's on something, I grab it. He appears as a plushie a lot, and I have almost as many of him as I have of Sakura. Is there anything you won't collect, or that you don't like? I'm generally not a fan of statues, or any figure that can't be posed, as it's just nice to look at, and it's not really my taste. The few that I have stay in their boxes, and that's not really what I want for my collectibles. So I tend to avoid them. What is your plan now that you've won the record? For now, I'm continuing to grow my collection, but I've slowed down considerably. I'm keeping my tracker up to date, and I might resubmit to update my number in the future, but if someone comes along and snatches the record from me, I might just let them keep it. The second person to have the record, a Miss Shirahoshi Natsumi, still maintains a sizable collection, and I will be keeping my eye out for her in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, and thank you again to the KawaiiKon organizers who invited me to present this video at their convention. This is the YouTube ending, that's why it sounds a little different. If you wanted to see the KawaiiKon ending, then you should have shown up for the convention, although it is probably still up on KawaiiKon official Twitch channel, at least for a little while. Anyway, new videos are coming along. I've been doing a lot more stuff on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/CCYamato. It's also almost time for another chapter review, and I've seen the preview for it already, and I feel like I'm going to be disappointed, but we'll get to that when we get to it. For now, thanks for watching, do all the YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next video.